Something ever since turning out right, and I don't wanna grow up.
Hey guys, Frightener22 here, welcoming you to the debut episode of my brand new segment on the channel, Frightener22's Childhood Flix Picks. Now, just to give you guys a bit of a background, the whole reason and need to do this new segment was because in the off-season, during the summer, I was kind of thinking of new ideas to inject in the channel that weren't so much focused on DVD updates or horror movies and cult movies, which is what Saturday Night Movie Drive-In is. And although I'm a huge film buff, I'm a lover of all movies, specifically horror films, you know, another big love of mine is films that I grew up watching as a child, and of course, like family-orientated movies, animated films, and all that. So I was really looking for you know, a new segment that I could really sink my teeth into and talk about all these films that I really grew up loving as a kid. So, lo and behold, here we are with the brand new segment, Childhood Flix Picks, and I'm really excited to debut this new segment. There's going to be new videos every single Wednesday for this end. The whole thing is that I'm going to be reviewing films that were really near and dear to my heart as a child, but they don't necessarily have to be films that I grew up loving as a child. They could just be childhood films from, you know, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago that I've just recently been introduced to, or they're films that I grew up loving for 20 years now. So I figured for the debut episode it had to be something really rich, juicy, and especially something really close to my heart. So that's why we're going to be taking a look at one of my most personally favorite childhood films, and also one of my favorite films of all time. So we're going to be taking a look at the 1988 classic film, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Now, this film was actually Disney production, and at the time that this movie was made, which was 1988, it was actually the estimated to be the most expensive movie produced up to that point in the 80s. It was actually estimated at a budget of $70 million, believe it or not, and it had the longest end credits of all the people that helped in the film, which was pretty impressive. Now, this film, which was beautifully directed by Robert Zemeckis, who gave us the incredible Back to the Future trilogy, as well as some classics like Forrest Gump, as well as his recent efforts like The Polar Express, Beowulf, and A Christmas Carol. Now, in this film, it deals with a very bitter and alcoholic detective by the name of Eddie Valiant, who's played by Bob Hoskins in Hollywood, specifically the year 1947. Yes, the golden era of movie making. And he's a really down and out and alcoholic detective who lives in a world where cartoons and people coexist together. So he's actually hired by, to pretty much prove the innocence of a very famous cartoon by the name of Roger Rabbit, because Roger's wrapped up in a whole murder scheme against him, so Eddie steps in to save the day to kind of clear his name on it. Now, this film is just incredible. I grew up watching this film, I can't even tell you how many times. The thing that makes it really personal film for me is that it's packed with so much hilarity and, of course, beautiful animation. It's wonderfully acted, an incredible score and all that. But the thing that makes it really personal for me is, as a kid, this would be the go-to VHS in you know, my family's collection. And every day, when my dad would come home from his break, where he would, you know, in the middle of the day, he'd be home for a few hours. As being a little kid, we would, of course, take a nap together because I was really young, but not a day would go by for practically a year or two that we didn't grab the VHS and watch it. So that's the thing that I really, you know, hold like really close to my heart when I watch this. Is that it's not only such a great film, is that it brings back a lot of memories of like me and my dad just being really close with each other, and being able to, you know, just grab this really great animated live action film to just, you know, kick back and kind of, that was just our daily ritual. So that's why this film is really special, and that's why I think movies in general are really great to have sentimental feelings about, you know, seeing the film in general, but when you can actually kind of, you know, reminisce about a personal, you know, personal events that go on as you're watching such a, you know, a memorable movie, that just, you know, makes a film that much more special, you know, as you grow older. Now, of course, as I had mentioned before, this film is starred in by Bob Hoskins, and it's actually also voiced from Charles Fleischer, who did the voice for Roger Rabbit. And if that name might not sound familiar, he actually had a small bit part in A Nightmare on Elm Street where he plays the Dream. He works at the Dream Clinic where Nancy is taken to, and he's kind of like the doctor that oversees her while he's there. while she's there, but he's incredible, man. I mean, he's just, I've met him in person, he's a real oddball, and I mean, for anybody to voice, Roger Rabbit, he has got to be a little kooky, but he's magnificent. The female in it, who plays a pretty much like a hostess in a bar, is Eddie Valiant's girlfriend, who's played by Joanna Cassidy, who starred in countless classic films like Blade Runner and Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. And of course the villain, the mastermind villain behind everything that's trying to blackmail Roger Rabbit of murder and whatnot is Judge Doom, who is played by the always magnificent Christopher Lloyd. And, this was 1988, so from 1985 to 1990, Robert Zemeckis and Christopher Lloyd were pretty much inseparable at that point. They made the Back to the Future trilogy and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, so they really, must have enjoyed working with each other, but, it hasn't been since 1990. Christopher Lloyd and Robert Zemeckis hasn't worked together since, but they really gave us some. They really gave us some really kick-ass films in that 5-year stretch, and this is just one outside of the Back to the Future universe that is just incredibly memorable. Christopher Lloyd is a despicable villain in this, and interestingly enough, Tim Curry actually auditioned for the role of Judge Doom, but Zemeckis and the writers all felt that he gave like a truly disturbing performance that was just like way too scary. So that's the main reason why they didn't hire him for the film. And another interesting thing that I did find out while I was researching some notes about this film was there was actually a subplot that was originally written but was never used, was that Judge Doom was going to be revealed that he was actually the killer of Bambi's mother, and I thought that was a really, really cool twist. The animation in this, as I was talking about before, it's basically a combination of live action and animation, because obviously the humans in it are interacting with, a whole, Hollywood town filled with toons. So it's really cool, very reminiscent of Mary Poppins, but the animation, of course, by this point, being 1980, it looks a lot slicker, and it looks just incredible. And this, of course, was a Walt Disney production, but this is the first film that ever incorporated Walt Disney characters and Warner Brothers characters. So there was, a lot of debate before making this film. The people at Warner Brothers they weren't going to sign off on it unless their biggest characters, like Mickey Mouse, were going to be getting the same screen time. The biggest characters from Disney's universe, that being Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. Warner Brothers wouldn't agree to making this film if Bugs and Daffy didn't get the same screen time. So every time in the film you see Donald and Daffy in the same screen at the exact same time, and you see Mickey and Bugs on at the same time. Those are incredibly memorable scenes in the film, but that was really like the thing that they had to agree on if they were going to make this film. And I say that's totally fair, but it worked out beautifully because there, small scenes in it are incredible, and it's just really, really special to see all these, crazy, incredible characters, timeless classic characters, all in this film. I mean, you have the likes of Betty Boop, you have Tweety, Sylvester, Yosemite Sam, Woody Woodpecker, just incredible. The end of the film is so nail-biting, and it's hysterical, and it's exciting, and there's just a huge climax at the end where you just see this whole, mob of all these characters take over the screen. It's just, it's a brief but really incredible scene. It's just awesome to see all those characters on at one time. Now, just being that this film came out in 88, I was only one at the time that this film debuted, but, over the years, it just has always stuck with me. I've loved this movie ever since I, was first introduced to it in the early 90s, and I'm always going to love it. There's just something special about Zemeckis' direction, the hysterics that come out of this movie, just everything fits. In my opinion, this truly is a perfect film, and one that I'll, take with me for the rest of my life. And luckily, it's penciled in for 2012 for the long overdue sequel to this film to, pick up steam. So I'm really, really looking forward to that, and in hopes that this, classic film gets much needed Blu-ray release, because this movie would just look fantastic in the Blu-ray format. Well, that's all I got for you guys this time, so tune in every Wednesday for a new Childhood Flix Picks review, and subscribe to, keep updated. So, once again, thanks again for tuning in, guys. This is Frightener22.